Howdy folks, Rudros here. Welcome to another Lorcana Wednesday, and today I wanted to talk about the meta and where it has been going through the first 5 sets and where it will be going in the 6th set Azurite Seas. So heads up, this is completely competitive meta talk. This is, if you know, there's a lot of cards in here that I'm sure we'll see plenty of casual and fun play, maybe draft play, that's fine. I'm specifically talking about from a competitive meta standpoint, referring to high-level tournaments, etc. So I am a bit worried about the game getting stale because the meta is pretty much the same this set as it was last set, and looking over a lot of these card reveals for set 6, I don't really see anything changing that. I don't know if there's a single card on here that I've thought, wow, that's great. Wow, that's going to replace card X. Wow, this could inspire a whole new deck type. Now, they are kind of leaning in that direction with the Pirates, which is something I think this game really needs. It really needs a good tribal deck. You know, they kind of touched on it with the Seven Dwarves, but the problem was the Seven Dwarves just weren't very good cards. And there needs to be incentive to play these tribal decks, to play something like all these Pirates. Now, I'm not seeing the payoff here in the Pirates yet, at least what's been revealed so far. And of course, caveat, the full set isn't out yet, so maybe we'll see something that comes out later that'll change that. But with as quickly as we're approaching the set release, I'm getting less and less sure of that as every card that I have seen. You know, we saw some new legendaries, the Hades, the Hercules, and the Genie, which when I read the first line, the Genie was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then the second line, well, that just completely hampers it. So why is this important too? Well, for one, if you play every week like I do, and I go to my locals every single week, sometimes more than once a week, but at least once a week, I myself am starting to get a little bored of the game and find it to be a little stale running into the exact same decks every week. Having to face the discard over and over again, having to face red-blue over and over again. Aggro was kind of one of the big new scary decks, and honestly, you don't even see it that much, at least not at my locals. So the game getting stale is one thing, and that happens when the meta doesn't change. That if you look at these decks, this is pretty much the exact same as last set. Okay, you've got a splash of green-purple, you've got red-blue, you've got your green-steel discard. Yes, Bucky is gone, but this deck is just as annoying and just as obnoxious as ever. And you've still got Ruby Amethyst, which has been here since set 1 and likely isn't going anywhere. And if you look at the new cards that are played in these decks, take a look at it. So these are the top performing decks of their respective ink colors from the Las Vegas tournament. And look forward to the Seattle tournament this weekend. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. I don't think anything's going to change. Look at this Ruby Amethyst deck. There is one new card from set 5 in this deck, and it's right here. It's also the 5th Spirit. Other than that, with 30 plus cards in Ruby and Amethyst added to the set, no, it's just keeping the exact same stuff it put in one new card. Look at the Steel Green Discard deck. There are 2 cards that were added from this set that were added into this list, which is the Ana, which I would be curious to know if this card would see play if it didn't have the modal option or the discard. Like if it was just the banish on a damage, would that still be worth playing? That you'd have to ask one of these players for, but it's the Ana and the Pete. The Pete, understandably, right? It does something that no other card does. And when you have cards that are so reliable and so powerful as many of these early cards are, like Diablo, like the Ursula Deceiver, like the Storm Rage on, Strength of a Raging Fire, Sudden Chill when you're doing the discard plan. In order to break into these decks, you have to do something that the deck wasn't able to do before. That's why you see Pete here in this list and in the blue steel version as well, because Pete gives you an effect, an ability that you did not have before. The ability to say, you cannot use Be Prepared on me next turn, even if you have it in hand. That's very unique. Why do you only see Elsa in this list versus any other new cards? Because it's the only new card that is worth using that gives you a new ability. This deck used to run like that old Pinocchio in set 2, set 3, but that was uninkable. So this is like a better version of that Pinocchio. Other than that, if you're trying to gain lore, is there a better card than Goat? If you're trying to draw cards in these colors, is there a better, more reliable card than Merlin? Is there more reliable removal than Medusa? You know, people will often say about a lot of these new cards, at least in the St. Louis Discord, if it has 3 attack or less, as a lot of these do, you'll hear the dies to Medusa. Now, usually you only hear it when it's a high cost card. If it was the cost of, let's find one here, like no one's going to care if you blow a Medusa on this little 1-drop. But if you have a big, there's got, where are we going to, here, so like this Jafar, he costs 5. So Medusa killing it, yeah, that's relevant because then Medusa just whacks it and the moment it gets played, boom, it's taken out immediately. And that is an important point, that there are only 2 reasons that good cards disappear. Everybody can agree that the GOAT is a good card. The GOAT will only ever disappear for one of 2 reasons, which is the same reason any card disappears. 1, it gets removed from the format, which means it's either banned or errataed, or they introduce rotation or something that just makes it, you literally cannot play it in the format. Or 2, it gets power crept. And people always say, well, how can you power creep a card this good? Simply, you literally turn one number and you've power crept it. Make another card that has all the exact same stuff as the GOAT, put a 3 in this corner. It's a power crept GOAT. Put a 4 where this 3 is. It's a power crept GOAT. Put a second lore on it, or that a second lore happens here. There, you have a power crept GOAT. But until that happens, until it's removed from the format or a better version of GOAT comes out, if you're playing a purple deck, you're going to be playing the Merlin Mim package. And Ruby Amethyst is my baby. I love this deck. So yes, I'm happy to use the cards, but do I also get kind of bored of them at times? Yeah, I do. It's the same. Okay, play this, bounce it, play it, bounce it, repeat ad nauseum. Oftentimes your opponent can't do anything about it. Sometimes they'll be able to, depending on what you're facing. So, and that's also, from a monetary standpoint, not very good for new card sales. Do I really have a reason to buy Azurite Sky right now? If I want to play Ruby Amethyst in this next set, I haven't seen anything come out yet that I've thought, oh man, I'm going to take out, Friends on the Other Side to play that card instead. I'll take out my Magic Brooms. I'll get rid of the Queen's Castle because this location is much, much better. There's nothing in here that makes me want to do that. So if there's nothing in the new set that is going to replace any of the cards I'm using, well, what's really the point of buying the new cards? Looking at some of the other decks, I think blue probably got the most this set out of anything. But if you look at these red-blue lists, Tipo is probably by far the biggest addition they got. And they also got Hideaway / the Cusco, which lets them deal with locations. They also got Vision of the Future. So blue actually got quite a few cards this set that have replaced some of the older cards. But Vision of the Future, it is a new card replacement. Is it really a different card? It's just a better version of, what's the one drop? Develop Your Brain? Yeah. It's the same card, just better because you get to look deeper into the deck. Again, so that is a perfect example, right? Vision of the Future is essentially a power crept version of, what is it? Develop Your Brain. I always want to say, know your enemy or something. Develop Your Brain. Now, it's not an official 1-to-1 power creep because Develop Your Brain does cost 1 cheaper, and they both do put a single card into your hand. So you can absolutely make the argument it's not technically power creep. However, as most players have decided, which is why you see this over the Develop Your Brain, is looking 5 deep versus 2 deep is absolutely worth the 1 extra ink. So now that this card is here, you're probably not going to see Develop Your Brain anymore. Neither of them are songs, so it doesn't fit that slot. Look at the ramp. Look at all the new ramp spells we get every set after set after set. And what do you see these decks playing? They're still playing Fishbone Quill. Fishbone Quill. They're still playing some of them. Everyone's always got their flavor of if they prefer one jump over Mickey. They're all on Tipo. Once you find the ultimate version of that, they're not going to choose the other options. No one's going to choose the Heart of Tefiti. No one's going to choose, a ton of Great Stone Dragons. On occasion, you'll see 1 in here, but it serves a very different purpose. There's no reason to. Until something comes along that's better than Flaversham and Popsicle, you will continue to see this draw engine in your blue decks, especially in your blue-red decks. Green, purple probably got the most new toys, which is mainly the big Clarabelle. Some of them are running the Elsa. You could argue the little Clarabelles, although they're mainly in here to shift into the big one, if it weren't for her. But Lyle, all these other cards, the Merlin Mim package, that's old stuff. The Bonsai's new. This one has broken through. And You're Welcome is a nice, because again, this did something the deck didn't really have before, right? Green didn't really have just unconditional spot removal. It usually, it's got to be damaged, or it had to have taken something else this turn, or XYZ. This one just says, nope, just get rid of it. Yeah, they get to draw 2, but it gets it off the field. So you see that. So you see something like that break in because, hey, this is something the deck didn't have access to before. Again, this one seems to run the most new cards, obviously, other than aggro the yellow-purple, because it got the new Daisy Duck, the Chromacon, the gathering knowledge and wisdom. But that deck, for all the fear and worry about it when the set started, you don't see it that often. It did do well at this event. There was a version of it that was able to make it quite high into top cut. I don't remember how well it did after this. But, maybe it's just because of the kind of hit or miss nature of this deck. It tends to either just run you over, or you happen to have the answers to it and they don't see their Chromicon, and then you just completely run it over. Now, do I want them to just power creep stuff? No, not at all. And the term power creep implies a slow raise in power over time. I can't stand it when a new card comes out that just blows an older card out of the water. I would like to see them focus more on things like tribals, like give us an alternate win condition, that if I can get all 7 dwarves on the field with Snow White, it's like a dwarf Exodia. Boom, I just win the game instantly. If you look at these pirate cards, like there are a lot of cards that are saying if you have a pirate, but are any of these effects like amazing? Are any of these effects going to let you win the game? Now, maybe. We haven't tested them yet, but this Kakamora, a 4-cost uninkable that's essentially going to die to anything you run it into, that's not very good. Extra lore on this Donald, I mean, that's not bad, but I don't see yet the big payoff of like, oh man, if you're playing pirates, this is the thing to be doing. And pirates already wasn't very good because it tended to lack card draw. I don't see anything that really changes that. Also, they're pushing pirates into a different color. All the pirates before this were mostly in steel, so it's now they're kind of abandoning that steel aspect of the cards and pushing you into green, which means the good pirate cards are just kind of like split. I don't know. I think they are also hurting their design a lot with a lot of cards that are uninkable, they just shouldn't be uninkable. I'll talk about this new legendary. This is a legendary Hades. This is an uninkable 5-cost, so already not great. It has the stats of a goat, so it's understated for its cost, a single lore. And he's mainly in here for his effect, which is exert, pay 3 ink, and you have to kill one of your characters to banish a chosen character. Like I feel like I can understand what they were thinking with this card. Oh, you can kill, there's no restriction on this, right? It doesn't have to be damage, it doesn't have to be a certain cost, certain power. Kill anything you want. So I understand you would be a little scared to just put that as a repeatable effect on a card, and so you want to hamstring it a bit. I understand that. But by making it uninkable and a cost 5, so it's a bit expensive, it doesn't do anything the turn you play it. On turn 5, if you spend 5 to put this down, nothing happens. Then you have to spend 3 ink, which would be half your 6 ink for the next turn. And you've got to exert him, so he's not challenging or he's not questing. And you have to have another character to banish. I mean, that's so many restrictions, and I think this card is going to be terrible and is not going to see any play. Again, do you want to play this Hades for 5 over a Medusa 1 turn later that the moment it comes down says that's gone? Over Maui, which Maui says, hey, I can take out most locations in the game the turn I come down. I can take out almost any character and live on the turn I come down, and then I'm still a big body they have to deal with. And that's it. You don't have to invest more ink into me, more characters into me every single turn. I mean, I would love to be wrong about this card, but it reads so terribly. And a big part of that is the uninkable cost. Going for the Legends this set, I think that's a big reason you don't see cards like Mufasa. If Mufasa was inkable, I think you might see more of these blue-red or blue-gray decks actually run him, because then if you draw him early, you can just put him into the Inkwell. Now, those decks also can get rid of him with things like Quill, but think about that. They have the ability to get rid of an uninkable card, and it's not even worth running this. If you're going to pay 8, you know what? I'd rather just play the Tamatoa. It technically has, just as good a stats to get removed. It's inkable, so if I draw it early, I can make sure I can ink it correctly. Look at the legends from this set. In this top row, so both the greens have seen play, and I haven't seen anyone use these purple ones. The Mirabelle, nobody uses. And the Naveen is, of course, used in the Steel Song deck. He's very good there. This bottom row, I don't see any of these. I mean, yeah, the Donald was in my one fun deck, but again, in a serious competitive list. I know some people have messed around with the Robin Hood, and I'm sure he's very good when he goes off. But in most red lists, did you have room for the Robin Hood? No, because he's a build-around. You have to build around him. Same with, this Merlin. These cards it's a neat idea. This Jafar, though, having 0 strength means it dies to Medusa, it dies to Brawl, it dies to any Sisu. So out of, 12 legendaries this set, only 3 of them are seeing consistent play, which is the 2 greens and the 1 yellow. That's not great. I want to touch on purple in particular with that, because I really like the purple. Look at every purple legendary since it came out. In set 1, Elsa and Ursula were absolutely fantastic, but no one really plays these anymore. Sometimes you'll see Blurple with the Elsa because it can shift onto the other one. So she will still see occasional play. Dragon, nope. Fairy Godmother, very, very rarely. That Atlanta list was the only one I saw even running it, and in all the matches he was on stream, I never even saw him play the card. Maleficent, never. Jafar obviously has a very specific use in the wheel deck, but other than that, you don't see it. Same with Yensid. He's very good in the brooms. Ursula, you only see it in that green-purple list. And this card is pretty generic. Stop Singing, Quest for a Lot, Exerts. Why don't you see it in all the other purple lists? Because they don't have the room to play it. It's really too slow to be played on 7, so you want shift, which is why it's good in the green list, because you can shift onto the small one. And you never see these two. Again, other than, these cards obviously have niche uses. Do you want to run any of these over the standard Merlin Mim package? No, you don't. So, and the game's going to keep going that way, that unless there is a reason to turn away from these other cards and to turn towards some of these new ones, give me a reason to play Pirates. And I hope they've surprised me in that playing it is way better than it reads. Look at this Mim card. This one is definitely worth talking about. It's uninkable. It's a 2/3, which is the same stats as a 2-cost Simba, so it's understated, and it's uninkable. That's 2 negatives right there. And then has an ability, pay 2, discard a card, gain 1 lore. Now, what makes this interesting is there's no limit on this ability. It doesn't require to be exerted. So if you had 10 ink and 5 cards in hand, you could gain 5 lore off the bat. That's great. Is this better than a lore book, a spell book from set 2? An item, which means it's way harder to remove than a character and requires way less investment. You just 1 single ink every turn. This one, once you give up your cards too. I mean, again, with all these, I'm going to stop saying it because it's getting repetitive, but I would love to be proven wrong about all these. But going over this with a lot of the people in my local group, I don't see much excitement around any of these cards. It seems like very scared design, and maybe they're trying to not push the game, and that's fine, except the game has already been pushed. And if nothing new comes out to shake up the meta, guess what all the events are going to be? The exact same thing. You're going to see, is there anything you can see in this list that says, wow, that's going to stop Green Steel from being the most obnoxious deck in the room? Is there anything in these cards that says, hey, now they're not just going to be able to lucky dime kill me in 2 turns from 0 to 20? I'm not seeing anything. Look at this jumbo pop compared to the original Popsicle. One of my friends said, well, they made this because they realized the original Popsicle was a mistake. Okay, that's fine if they feel that way, but if they feel that way, guess what? If you don't ban this original Popsicle, no one is going to use this jumbo Popsicle. Who would use a 3-cost uninkable that only draws a card when it gets banished instead of on entry, and then also has no synergy with Flaversham? That's why the Popsicle works. Draw an entry, and then when Flaversham gets rid of it, you draw as well. This, if you banish it with Flaversham, you're not getting its natural card draw. So again, if you want someone to play this card, you have to get rid of this card. I'm not saying you should get rid of Popsicle. I'm just saying no one is going to have any reason to eat the jumbo pop if the plain old normal Popsicle is absolutely delicious on its own. Finally, I want to real quickly go through all the cards in the set just to show you how little from this set has actually seen competitive play and has made an impact. Vanellope, you'll see if there's going for like a shift in the Queen. I've seen some people run that in the Song deck. Doesn't do much. Obviously, Daisy's an impact. Alan A. Dale was good in the Song list. That's about it for yellow. You don't really see any of these. Queen Centricore, you'll see if they're running that deck, but none of these others you see. You don't see the locations. Purple, do you see any of these regularly? Even the Elephant, and the Elephant's another Mim card. Nope, you don't see him regularly. Don't see any. Elsa, of course. Elsa's the one knockout standard card from here. Magicka is a good idea, except it's terrible and very specific, and even if you run it against that deck, they can just get rid of it with Bruno or Zeus anyway. Knowledge and Wisdom is very good in aggro, and I do like the Chromicon and the Library in aggro. So purple has a few, but that's what, 4 cards? 1, 2, 3, 4, if you count the LC. Yeah, 4 cards in purple that have seen play. And that element is very much struggling, I think, to find an identity. Look at green. Haven't seen any of these. Bonsai you do see. Basically because he's essentially a better Flynn. You'll see the small Clarabelles to shift into the big one. And you do see some of the Mother Gothel, again, to shift into the big one. And you're welcome. Some people will run Emerald Chromicon. Few lists run any of these items, any of these actions, any of these locations. No location has really come out to challenge the Queen's Castle. Red. I mean, did Red get anything this set? I don't see any of these cards get played ever. The Vanellope, I've seen a tiny bit, essentially just as an answer to Diablo. Any of these? Nope. And for all the hype about the Ruby Chromicon when it came out, I've seen it cut from every single list that was added into it. So Red essentially has maybe Vanellope this set. Blue, we know, got a few. No one's running Sheriff, even though he's cool. Some people have really tried to use the Chica. Cusco sees a hit here and there, but even he fell off pretty hard, and I haven't really seen much people run the Donald. Tipo universally good, as is Visions. You don't see any of these items. You'll see the Hideaway. There was that one list that ran Merlin's Cottage, but for the most part, you don't see any of these. And finally, Steel. Steel got Pete, we know. The Dwarf package is terrible. It doesn't lead to anything. Kronk, I've never seen. Pete is universally good. You will see the Simba on occasion, but again, he doesn't really do anything new. It's just some people prefer that over, the Beast or the Cusco in like the Blue Steel list, but he essentially still does the same thing, and you don't see any of these items at location. So yeah, that's for what, 204 cards in the set, and you reliably see maybe 10, maybe 20 at the most, being generous. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Good luck if you're going to Seattle this weekend. Hope you have a great time and do really well. Let me know if you are also starting to get tired of this same meta that just doesn't look like it's going anywhere. And part of that, too, could be the fact that because they have limited the design of the game to 2 ink colors, maybe this is going to often be a theme that you're just going to kind of see these same cards and pairings over and over again. I would love to see a shakeup, though, but right now, for the 3rd set in a row, it looks like you can expect to see Ruby Amethyst, Emerald Steel, Ruby Sapphire, and, Emerald Purple. Yeah, Green Purple. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel out. We are pushing for more and more subscribers so I can get more and more Lorcana content out to you. It makes a big difference. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And until next time, take care.